Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
Welcome to The Long Road. I'm your host, Chris Roberts, and we're going to talk about the American financial picture, what the Americans think the future holds for them. And I've got the new Northwest Mutual every year puts out this research plan. They look at the Americans by breaking them down into classes, baby boomers, Gen Z, Gen X, millenniums. And they ask them what they think, what they're going to need to retire, what do they think their future's holding for them, how comfortable they feel about their future. Why did I look at this? Okay, let's look at in 119 days, we'll vote for a whole bunch of things, and we'll be electing 33, 34 senators. Some will be new, but the majority will be the same. We're voting for 335 members of Congress, maybe about 5%, new ones, because it doesn't change. Everybody's talking about, Donald Trump did this, he did that, he's a convicted felon, whole bunch of stuff. And technically, while you're in an appeal process and everything, you're not convicted, okay? If you're in an appeal process and you die, you're not convicted. Aaron Hernandez, not convicted felon, not convicted of murder. Ken Lay from Enron, he died of a heart attack, okay? He was convicted, but he was appealing it, and so basically by law, he wasn't a convicted felon. And so you can say Donald Trump is a convicted felon. Hey, he's appealing that. You can say Donald Trump is a convicted sex offender. That's a civil court, and he's appealing that. Okay. Then we have Joe Biden, disastrous debate. You got people saying that Joe Biden can only work 10 to 4 because he's got to go to sleep early. We got to arrange his schedule. You got people leaking stuff left and right. Normally when people start leaking like that, they're like rats on a sinking ship. They want to get out before the rats go. And they do that. And so it's going back and forth. President Biden's press secretary, if we want to be told that Donald Trump gives lies and gives a lot of misinformation, President Biden's secretary is far more, much better at it than Donald Trump could ever hope to be. So does Joe Biden stay in? Joe Biden stay out? It get out? Is Joe Biden's Jill and Hunter Biden, they like being the president's wife, the first lady, the first son, and they like everything that goes with it. They keep dad in, so if dad goes, hey, no big deal, dad dies, or dad gets to the point that the 25th Amendment is used to get rid of him, saying he's not effective. Okay, But if we get rid of Biden, do we get the governor of California? California's a mess. What do we do with Harris? Do we put Harris there? But Harris, shoot, when she was running for president of the Democratic Party, she couldn't do anything. She got less than 5% of the vote. I think in certain cases she got 1%, and she was a disaster in the debates and quickly dropped out. Do you get the governor, I think if it's Illinois, okay? He's got a lot of disasters going on in his state, but he's from a real wealthy family, but not too many people know him. Do you get the governor, female governor of Michigan? She's known, but not really that well known. But she was heavy into COVID and following Dr. Fauci. So we're talking about all this. Then you got multi-billionaire donors saying, you know what? We're not going to give any more money to President Biden's campaign. We're going to give money to people at the Senate, people at the House level. Because we got to do, if we can't keep Trump out of the White House, we got to make sure we keep hold of the Senate or maybe regain the House back. So it's going. And you know what? When they're looking at this, you, I, and millions and millions and millions of American people do not matter. It is so evident it's about money and it's about power. They don't care. And for example, that goes the reason. Stop and look at some of the people that got elected. Biden and Bush. I'll pick a Democrat and I'll pick a Republican. They were nice, lovable guys. George Bush is, yeah, he's the type of guy that you could go to a bar and have a beer with. Joe Biden, lovable Joe. Whole life in Congress, vice president. You know, twice he quit campaigns because of libel. He copied other people's speeches, and he got caught. Okay, but those two guys, they're in love with being the president, so they were easy to buy off and put in. So as all this is going on, they're talking about this and they're talking about that. But you know what? They're not talking about us. They're not talking about how is our future going to be? How is our quality of life going to be? Well, they're talking about giving more, and like the president came today, we're going to give more aid to Ukraine. Okay? The American people have no problem. We've given them $160 billion. We're going to give them more, and we'll give them more. But do they ask the American people? Okay, Russia's not going to take over Europe. Russia's not going to invade Germany. Russia's not going to invade Poland. Because if they do, NATO goes back, and all of a sudden, we can be on the verge of World War III. Plus, Russia does not have the capacity to capture Poland, Germany, or those other countries. Plain and simple. But again, what about the American people? What about the American people's future? What is about the American people quality of life? You want to elect someone that is going to maintain, or improve American citizens' quality of life. I know I'll probably ticked off some people because I said American citizens. Okay? our leaders are responsible for the quality of life for American citizens and for other people here legally. Plain and simple. That's what we have the president, and that's what they're responsible for. If there's migrant children here and they gotta go to school, the federal government's not responsible for them. It's the local communities that are responsible for them. And so there it is. Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, places in Florida, Denver, overwhelmed, and they got to come up with millions and millions of dollars to send to educate the children. But even thought that these candidates are not talking about it. They're not. No one is talking about your quality of life, your future. I would like to have a person who's running for president and saying, this is what I want to do for America. And once I make America, the people self-sufficient, giving people the opportunity to reach their potential, giving people a step up so they can improve their lives, then we can go in and worry about the rest of the world. I'm not an isolationist, but once I get my household in order, then I donate to other causes. If my household isn't in order, I'm not going to donate. I'm not going to give, because I want to make sure our household is in order. That's what I'm looking for in the individual to be president of the United States and to get a collective cabinet around them. Individuals like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, John Kennedy. People that inspire the fellow Americans to do better. Okay. So that's what we need to do. But we're not going to get it. The election is bought and paid for. Okay. So when you go bought and paid for, it all depends. Plain and simple. You've got Biden, or if they get a replacement, some people are talking about Hillary. Another person says, well, Michelle Obama. And they go back, well, Michelle Obama, she can't afford the pay cut. Okay? And so you got to give up a lot to be 400,000. Okay? So we don't know what. But whoever comes, both of them, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden right now, or if someone replaces him, they are bought and paid for. This election for president will be over $1 billion. Just think of it. $1 billion. And what's $1 billion? Just think. That's a Keene School District budget for the next 15 years. That's $1 billion. $1 billion. And I've heard and I've seen that this election cycle and all this together could end up costing over $3 billion for Congress, the Senate, and the president. Where is that money coming from? It's coming from the corporations. It's coming from the billionaires who want the people in their office, in the office that benefits their agenda. Again, I'm not Robert Kennedy Jr. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just looking at the money, where the money's coming from, where these super mega donors are saying about who they want for the president, who they don't want for the president. Do they want Joe Biden out? Debate has really brought these people who were kind of behind the scenes out into the public. And it may seem that I was off track of what I was going to do, but that was kind of a warm-up to showing that as far as this political election going, no one is talking about the future of the American people, the standard of living for the American people. Hey, I'm going to cut taxes. If you cut taxes, that doesn't going to benefit the average American person. It's going to benefit the big corporations. And they go, well, if the big corporations get more money, they will pay their people more. No, they're not going to pay their people more. They're going to constantly use AI and come up with ways to eliminate people, and they're going to buy back more and more stock. If you go on the other side, hey, you got to buy electric vehicles, or your refrigerator or your gas stove can't do this, or you can no longer barbecue outside. Okay. No. None of that is really going to benefit the average Joe. You know, the 2020 election, or was it 2016? Joe the plumber and things like that. You don't see the average person on any of these campaign rallies, because it's not about you. It's not about me. It's all about the top 20% of the people in the United States, top 20% people who are earning money and who have wealth. They're the ones who are deciding who's going to be on these elections. They want you to feel good that you have a choice. Yes, you do. You have a choice. We've picked them, and this is your pick. But don't worry, we hedged our bets. So even if my man doesn't win, I got another person I'm going to still, it's not going to be a complete loss. Okay. Now get back to what I wanted to talk about when we're talking about the future and the quality of life of us Americans. Okay. By the end of the month, this month of July, we will be $35 trillion in debt. That's it. $35 trillion. By the time people cast their final vote in the 2024 election, we will most likely be $36 trillion in debt. Just think of it. We'll be $35 trillion before the month is over. Right now, it's $34 trillion $900 billion in debt. So we could be $35 trillion in debt by next week, by the middle of the month. And then by election time, we'll be almost just about at 36 trillion or a little bit more than 36 trillion dollars in debt. No one is talking about that. Donald Trump is talking about cutting taxes. If you're in debt, it's kind of like, oh, I have a $10,000 credit card. So you know what? Instead of saying, I'm not going to buy anymore, I'm going to say, I'm going to work less, and that should solve the problem. Nope. Economics 101 doesn't work that way. Other one says, I want to spend money here, here, and here. And I go, where's that money coming from? We just add it to debt. It doesn't matter. I'm 81 years old. Shoot, I can be dead in 3 or 4 years. It's not my problem. It's your problem. But I'm looking good. I'm a good guy. I'm good old Joe. And I'll keep giving you stuff that you would like. $36 trillion in debt. You know what that means? That means next year, fiscal year next year, the first bill that the federal government has to pay is $1 trillion in interest. Just think, $1 trillion in interest. That's mandatory because the government doesn't want to default. $1 trillion in interest. So, if the government pays its interest, then they want to increase defense spending by 3.4%, getting it close to 0.9 trillion. Then you get Social Security and you get Medicare and Medicaid. And guess what? The country will have a deficit. Just those 4 items will put the country in debt, in a deficit. And they would have to borrow, $300 billion for Veterans Affairs. You're going to have to borrow it. Department of Education, Department of Labor, Farm Bill, $200 billion. You got to borrow it. So what happens is those are all going to affect, because what will happen is, if I'm a bank or investment, why would I want to loan money to you, the American person, if maybe 10% of you are going to go bankrupt or not pay your credit card or find some way not to pay everything you owe, when I can just loan the money to the federal government and I'm guaranteed I'm going to get my money. Why? You know what? Russia is not going to buy any United States debt. China is reducing the amount of treasury bonds that are bought. Japan is doing it. Saudi Arabia is doing it. Brazil are doing it. Why? Because they saw what the United States did after Russia invaded Ukraine, and they're not putting their money in U.S. assets or in the United States or in dollar increments. So, which means the Federal Reserve has to buy up. They would have to keep buying the federal bonds until the point the Federal Reserve can be totally overwhelmed and be like when they bought $8 trillion because the Federal Reserve sooner or later has to get rid of that. And so it goes. And if they have to keep printing money to pay for the debt, when that means inflation goes up. And so That means you, I, and the average person means we're going to have to pay more. Does Elon Musk care when inflation goes up? No, he can still get everything he wants. To the people up at the top, hey, are they gonna? Most of them no. Well, on some of the people who maybe make $300,000-$400,000 a year, but they were dumb enough to be in California and buy a $3-4 million house, like in New York and some of those places, Nantucket. Yeah, they're going to suffer because inflation costs are going up, and a lot of their money is going to pay mortgages that sooner or later, as inflation goes up, they can't afford. So I'm going to repeat a couple numbers, and we'll go. The median salary in the United States full-time, 50% above and 50% below, is $38,566. So 50% of the American workers, and there's a little bit more than 100 million American workers. So just put it this way, at least 50 million American workers make less than $39,000 a year. That's it. 50 million people working full-time in the United States make less than $39,000 a year. Now let's go to the next one, the average. Okay? The average is $59,426. Okay. $59,426. Okay? Why is the median important? Because you get this, you get that. Because say I work 2,000 hours a year, okay, and I get $12 an hour. So that means I'm going to get $24,000. Say you get a nice job, you get $100,000 a year. Okay? Oh, that's 124, so I can say the average is $62,000 a year, which would be a true mathematical statement. But I'm only making 21 or 24, and you're making 100,000. So you go to a basketball player and say, hey, I'm only getting $60 million a year. You throw that $60 million a year in, that really inflates the average. So that's why the median, 50% above, 50% below, is a much more accurate and a fair thing. But even look at it that. So you make the average person working full time is 60,000. You go, hey. So if you make $59,426, the average, and you work for 44 years, you graduate out of college at 22 and you retire at 66. Excuse me. And say for those 44 years, you made the average salary of $59,426. Over your lifetime of working, that means you'd make a little bit more than $2.6 million. $2.6 million, yeah, that sounds like a lot of money, which it is. But when you look at taxes and Social Security and everything, you're taking 20% off that. So you're taking $500,000 just in taxes and Social Security. So you're looking at about $2.1 million over your lifetime, 44 years to take everything, care of everything. So this planning and progress report goes and says expectations that the economy will end into recession this year. Gen Z says 62%, the millennials 59%, the Gen X 53%, the boomers 48%. So the younger people, the younger you are, the more you think the economy has a good chance to go into recession. Why? It was because, like I showed before, they can't get good paying jobs out of college. They can't get livable places to live out of college because now they can't get a good paying job. They can't get a reasonable place to live. Oh, now you really don't have money to pay off that student loan. Oh, so maybe I'll just pay the minimum every month. So I pay the minimum every month. The loan value goes up and up and up. So their going is, hey, the future isn't looking good. The boomers, okay, I think the last boomer was like 56. But most of the boomers, 10,000 people get to retire, boomers get to retire each year. I think it was 46 to 65. So if it's 65, 35, 59, so the youngest boomer is 59, 60 years old. If you're in a good place, you have a pension, your house is paid off, you know, you got a 401 along with the pension or things like that, hey, to you, the economy won't go into recession because you don't have a lot of those expenses that as you get younger and younger and younger have. You don't have to worry about sending kids to college. You don't have to worry. The biggest thing that you have to worry about is medical bills. Have you got a good medical plan? Are you paying for a good Medicare supplement? You're covered. You can have a really good job. So even if the economy goes into recession, it's going into recession for you, but it's not going into recession for me. And they want to know Americans' feeling of personal finance insecurity is on the rise. Okay. Financial insecurity, 54% of the Americans said that it increased. 18% said it decreased, and 28% said they stayed the same. Okay? I'm an old guy. I get Social Security and I get my military retirement check. I did not have to worry about the risk of losing my job income. So I would be in the one that would stay the same at like 28%. Decrease 18? Hey, some of the Gen Zs and the millennials probably got some really good jobs and stuff. So that's not too bad. Or maybe it's a boomer who went at 65 and went back to work to take a job at Target or Walmart or some of the other places to increase their income to cover the additional inflated related expenses. But 54%, they said their financial insecurity increased. And so then when it came down to putting money away for retirement, 52% said it was getting lower. 30% said they're on pace, and 9% says, well, it's growing faster. I understand it, and I'm going. The top 5, okay, inflation. 51% of the people are worried about inflation. 43% are worried about the economy. 31% because they have no savings, can't handle emergency. 27 personal debt because they're adding to their credit cards to buy food and other stuff because they don't have enough money to buy a basket of groceries. And another 22% healthcare costs going through the roof. So the cost is going up, it's going higher, and people are feeling insecure. Okay, let's look the discretionary spending between 2024 and 2023. All American adults account, 26% said they had more discretionary funding in between 2023. Gen Z was 36, Millennials 28, Gen X 24, and Boomers 20. So this is going down, but the Boomers, they're having less and less discretionary. Only 1 out of every 5 Boomer had more money to spend on other things, like going out to the movies, or like going to the theater, or getting Netflix. The same, 33%, less, 37%. 35% of the Boomers said they had less discretionary money. 41% of Gen X, 38% of Millennials, and 35% of Gen Z. So, except for Gen X's worth, basically 1 out of every 30 persons, adults in the United States, had less money, discretionary money to spend. So they're not going to Panera's, they're not going to Longhorn, they're not going to McDonald's, or they're not going to Sierra to go out and buy something extra, or they may be going to Sierra or TJ Maxx instead of going someplace else because they're looking for something they want, but they hope they can find it there because they can't afford it in other places. And so basically, the Americans, as far as Americans, they're hurting. And they're concerned, they're worried about it. And politicians and people running for president don't want to talk about this. You remember when I said if you made the average salary of $59,426, that would give you $2.6 million over 44 years, and yes, it's not inflation adjusted. Okay, the average American person in 2024 says they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. $1.46 million. You worked 44 years to make 2.6. Okay? How are you going to come up with $1.46 million? In 2020, the American people said $951,000 to comfortable. In 5 years, that's gone up to $500,000 more. You go, what? Hey, home prices, electricity, oil, healthcare, all this stuff. And so that is an awful lot of money. 1.46 trillion to live the last 20 to 25 years of your life, to live comfortably, when you would only make 1.46 million, when you would average about 2.6 million over 44 years. And that's to live comfortably. And say you live 25 more years and you got $40,000 a year from Social Security, which would be high. For 25 years, that would give you $1 million. But that would still keep you $500,000 short. Okay? You know how much the average American has in their retirement account right now? $88,400. $88,400. That means the average American who wanted to live comfortably is short $1.37 million. For some people, hey, I got $1.5 million house. I can sell that $1.5 million house and move into a retirement home or someplace like that, and hopefully it won't cost me too much. And hopefully I don't have to go into a nursing home where you can go in, if you're lucky, you go into Maplewood nursing home and you pay $150,000 a year to be in there. In 2021, the average American, it came out to $98,800. So in 3 years, what the average American had for retirement now is dropped down $10,000. Why? People are taking money out of their 401k, the IRAs and everything to cover expenses. They're paying a tax penalty, they're paying tax on it, and they're mortgaging their future just to keep above float right now. Okay. Gen Z, $22,800. Millennium, $62,600. Gen X, $108,000. Boomers, $120,000. A boomer, $120,000 for the boomer. Gen X is saving and they're realizing it, but they're way short. But a boomer. So you could be a boomer at 70 years old and you have $120,000. That would only pay 10 months in a nursing home. Okay. So we go on. Have a plan to address healthcare costs in retirement. Basically, 3 out of 5. I have planned for the possibility I could outlive my savings. 2 out of 5. I have a plan to address long-term healthcare needs in retirement. 2 out of 5. I have planned for the potential that Social Security may be cut or may not be in place when I qualified it. 2 out of 5. I will have enough to leave behind an inheritance or gift. Only 50%, 1 out of 2. So you're going to work your whole life. I have a good understanding of how tax could impact my retirement. 3 out of 5. I have a good understanding how potential drops in the stock market could impact my retirement. 3 out of 5. So, what is your main source of debt? Well, to put it this way, for example, in 2022, not counting mortgages, the average American has $22,713 in debt. And when they look at it, credit card bills, for Gen Z, it's 21, millennials, it's 30, Gen X is 30, boomers, 29. Car loans, Gen Z, 10, millennials, 30, 13, Gen X, 15, and boomers, 13. 46% of the boomers, basically 1 out of 2 boomers have no debt. 31 out of 3 Gen Z, 1 out of 4 millennials, and 30% of Gen X. So the ones that Gen Z is 16,000, millennium 24,000, Gen X is 28,000, and boomers are 18,000. So it goes up and then down. The what do you prioritize in 2024? 36% prioritize saving money. 64% prioritize paying down debt, which is extremely important. My wife just got another one from Kohl's. Kohl's is now Capital One, and it says, hey, your interest rate will be a minimum of 31.24%. 31.24%. And that's for people with good credit. 31.24%. If you want the biggest return on your money, hey, you put $10,000 back into the bank, bingo, you can get $500 in interest. You pay off $10,000 in debt on credit cards like TJ Maxx and Kohl's and everything. You save yourself $3,100. So pay off the credit card before your savings, but you still got to put savings in there. The highest one, boomers, 75% of the boomers are working on paying down debt. They're not worrying about saving money, because in a lot of cases in the boomer, you may be living on your 401 or your pension, Social Security, or combination, and your priority is to pay down your debt, because when you pay down your debt, you're saving interest and you're actually giving yourself more money every month that you pay down the debt. The Gen Z, 52, Millenniums, 58, and Gen X, 65. Only 66% of the American people know if they have enough money to spend what they're spending on. So 34%, 1 out of every 3 Americans, are going out and spending and don't even know if they have enough money to spend. So if they're not sure, bingo, we will put it on the credit card. Or if not sure, hey, I'll just put my debit card and have it taken out of my savings. What's the big deal? Okay? So, by the end of this year, the United States government would have spent over $7 trillion this year. The United States government is propping up the economy. It's going to spend $2 trillion it does not have. It's putting $2 trillion into the economy because the economy depends on you and I spending money. It doesn't matter if we have it or not, because if we go out and spend, they make money. And if we don't have money and we put it on the credit card at 31%, they make money. The whole economy is based on we consuming 70% of everything that's out there for sale. Whether it's services, whether it's travel, food, cars, everything. We want to go 70%. If we do not spend 70% of the money, the economy goes towards a recession. Okay? The stock market may go down. For 80% of the American people, the stock market going down has no effect on their quality of life. So they don't want you to save. It is not in the economy's best interest for us to save money. It is based on the fact that we need to spend. You need to spend. I need to spend. Look at all the commercials. It's spend. If I go on Facebook, I go on Google, I go any place, basically I go, it's flooded with ED thing. Hey, just call up, talk to a doctor, bingo. Or I go other places, hey, you know what? You know how much gutter guards will cost right now? We can put gutter guards in the first plate in there. Hey, you know what? If you live in the state of New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire will pay for you to put up solar panels. Where's that? Oh, if I go here, hey, you know what? Look at my plan to play the stock market and make you money. I will give you my book. You won't have to pay me $500. Hey, you know what? I flip houses. Bingo. Hey, I got this new plan that you can lose weight. I got this plan that you can grow your hair. All it is to get you to buy. They have marketeers, social science majors, marketing, psychologists, and all that stuff to get us to spend. As long as we are spending and not saving, we will never technically be in a recession. And so then they can go, you're not in a recession. Okay? It's just like I said before. Hey, we create 200,000 jobs. I lose my job here, or I quit my job here because there's a new company hiring or an old company's hiring more people. So we're creating jobs. These were how many hires. Okay? And so we're looking good. The numbers look good. But hey, once you're not collecting unemployment and once you're not looking for a job, you don't count in the official numbers. The unemployment number is only based on the number of people who are working and the number of people that are actually looking for jobs. So we are told over and over again, hey, financially, we are well off as a nation. But just think, what if they come up with a grand plan next year that the deficit will be limited to $1 trillion? That's a lot of money, but I say the deficit will be limited to $1 trillion. So that means $1 trillion less will be spent by the federal government. $1 trillion less in grants, all this other kind of stuff. So the government says, you know what, we're going to spend $100 billion less on education. So, okay, Keem, we're going to give you $50,000 less in a grant. So that means we may lay off somebody, or we raise your taxes. Okay? That $1 trillion has been, this money that we're spending, it's like a drug. It's to keep us spending and spending, and that way we can keep saying the economy is going well. The economy is going well. I don't want a president saying, let's make America great again. America is a really great country. Can it do better for the American citizens and everything? Yes, it can. I want somebody that's going to say, hey, what is your problem, Americans? Hey, 80% of the Americans, especially from 20 to 79, this group, the group, quote unquote, it's a middle class that is really struggling, that's really disappearing. None of the presidents are talking about that. Very few of the candidates are talking about that. When I read some of the numbers, the American people are not happy. This report, which I brought this report, isn't like the one from CNBC or the other ones where they just look and question the people that watch those shows, which is the upper class, higher income people. This one went over all America. So when you look at how these people are feeling financially, what they're feeling about their future, and what they think they need to be able to retire comfortably, this is saying is Americans are scared out of crap what they're going to do when they retire and maybe only have $100,000 in their 401k, and then they have Social Security and they have to live on Social Security for the rest of their life. And like I said, hey, my house is $200,000. That means if I'm not working, not getting money, I have to pay $6,200 just to stay in a house that I've already paid for. So I will be taxed out. If I'm the average, I'm going to be taxed out of my property. Like I said, look at the amount of people, one person who could find affordable housing. Almost 60% of the patients of one person household cannot find affordable housing. 2 adults, no children. It was 1 out of 3 could not find affordable housing. What? They go in and they talk about affordable housing for people who are homeless or people who are at risk of being homeless. but they're not talking about the 21 to 79%. You know, the people that a lot of them don't qualify for federal and state benefits. Why aren't these people running for president talking about that? I would love to have these two individuals be in a town hall of a couple Americans from every single state in the United States sitting there asking them economics and quality of life questions. No reporters, no nothing, and say, Mr. Trump, how are you going to help me? I own my house. How are you going to help me to be able to stay in my house and not get taxed out? Mr. Biden, the cost of food is going higher and higher. The cost of medication is going higher and higher. How are you going to help me afford quality food and make sure I have my medicine? That's what I would like the people running for president to say. That's what I would like for them to say. We got to improve the quality of life of every American. Thank you.